Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday, Milwaukee. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. I'm Joe Dray, the Policy Director for Wisconsin Voices, here with my co-host today, first-time co-host on the radio show with me, at least. Our Executive Director, David Bowen. So welcome to the show, David.
Absolutely. Appreciate being here. And it's a hot Monday.
Ooh,
it's
man.
It's steamy. And you know, it gets hot in Milwaukee when if you wake up and you walk outside in the morning and it's actually hot already. It's about to be a scorcher.
Have you had it on the windows where the inside of your windows start to condensate just a little bit? You know, you might leave the door open, the screen door on, it instantly starts condensating because it's so humid and you got the air on. But stay
Welcome
cool.
to summer in Milwaukee, and hope you guys are staying cool. Hope you're staying hydrated.
Yeah, definitely. Take care of yourself today. Find a cool place to relax, drink your water. Just take it easy, you know. And today ain't the day probably to be doing the yard work like I was doing all weekend. That was hot enough for me.
Gotcha. So you were in the sun.
I was doing a lot of work out in the sun.
You were breaking a sweat for sure.
Yeah, shout out to my partner Amanda. We knocked it out this weekend. It was it was rough, but we got a great show today for you. We're going to go over some of the updates, some policy updates real quick. We're going to roll through them.
We have to give you a big shout out.
Oh yeah,
and thank you for all the great work you've been able to do. You're gearing up to move.
Yes, this may be one of my final shows. I almost forgot, David. I will be transitioning out of my role here as policy director at Wisconsin Voices. I've accepted a job down in North Carolina, just outside the Raleigh-Durham area, doing economic development, which gets back to what really got me into public service, and that's creating economic opportunities for folks and building up communities. Just now I'll be doing it down in North Carolina. Really excited about the opportunity and the opportunity to not only for myself to grow, but to contribute down there and watch things grow. It's a really great area. It's a growing area. So, but you know, Milwaukee has always, you guys, when I first moved here, you took me in. The folks that I've worked with, our partners, our staff, whether they're here still or not, have all contributed to my success here. And I can't say thank you enough to the folks at Wisconsin Voices and all the folks in Milwaukee doing the great work day in and day out. I'm in awe of some of the work that our partners are doing out there, David. Some of them, working full-time jobs and still going out there and running the food banks and running the social programs and doing the canvassing and it amazes me how these folks just have so much energy to continue to go out and so much passion. And you've inspired me. So again, just thank you to everyone out there, our partners, all of Milwaukee, and especially to our staff here and board at Wisconsin Voices. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're thankful for everything you've been able to contribute, and it's a big testament of what former elected officials can do. We are two former elected officials, and we both had to bust our chops on the local level, and we know that's where a lot of the work gets done. And I appreciate you shouting out our partners. Those are the folks that do the work day in, day out. And sometimes it's thankless. So we want to make sure that we just thank you for your contributions for sure. And we get a chance to even talk about economic development today, which is your forte.
Yeah. I figured, one of the last shows I'm going to be doing, I might as well kind of dip into this. Brian and I have a little bit, we tend to get these conversations going. Shout out to Brian. He's out today, not feeling well. Feel better, Brian. Hope you're feeling listening and relaxing on the couch, and feeling better soon. But this is one of the things that we seem to really get going back and forth on is economic development. We like to talk a lot about where those investments go.
Right.
We've seen a lot downtown, but do we see it equally distributed throughout the city, to all neighborhoods? We'll get into that. I want to go through just some quick updates, some big news happening. Big news with the governor's race becoming wide open now. Governor Tony Evers declared this week, or last week, I should say, that he will not seek a third term at age 71. He cited a desire to prioritize family after nearly 5 decades in public service. And I think, just saying about us both being elected officials, I thought about my tenure as an elected official, and I cannot imagine doing 50
years
of public service.
5 decades. And it takes a toll, right? We
Oh,
know
yeah.
that talk about selfless jobs.
Yeah.
That if you are contributing your time to public service in that degree, you are stopped constantly. You are never really off the clock.
Never.
Because everybody wants a chance to be able to find assistance and support where they can, and the issues don't turn off, right? So really appreciate Governor Evers for his time to the state of Wisconsin, and thank his family because they have been the ones that have been there in the background time and time again when he can't make it to those family functions because he's being pulled to do something else. At one point you want to be able to kick your feet up and say, hey, I've done everything I could and I'm proud of everything I accomplished. And the Governor Evers has a list of things that he can hang his hat on that he has accomplished in his role as governor and his role as state superintendent, and the impact that he's made on families, on kids, on the future of the state.
Yeah. Hats off to Governor Evers, and again, his whole family, because we know what a toll it takes on the whole family. I got the opportunity to meet Governor Evers really soon after I first moved here to Wisconsin. We had Black Advocacy Day at the Capitol, and then got to go to the reception afterwards at his residence. And what an awesome opportunity to go.
2023.
It had been early 2024.
Okay. Gotcha.
Early last year.
Gotcha.
And then got a chance to go in and, shake his hand and just kind of have that relaxed setting. What a down to earth guy. Just really, really down to earth. And, party lines, take down the party lines. This guy, he really gets it about just really talking to common folks like me that really didn't know a lot about Wisconsin politics coming in, didn't know a lot about the landscape, but he made me feel very welcome as well. And again, just hats off to an amazing career for Governor Evers.
He was the progressive from Plymouth, right?
Yeah,
Plymouth, Wisconsin, rural part of the state. That's when President Obama comes to Wisconsin and he shouts out, well, this is God's country. Plymouth is like God's country. That's like, you're just run the mill everyday town. Yeah. And I think that's built up the public service servant that you see in front of you today, where like exactly what you said, what you see is what you get. Right. He plays he dances polka, he plays euchre. He met his wife in kindergarten. Like this is the small town guy that like Wisconsin has grown to love, and he actually has one of the highest approval ratings of governors in the country. Yeah, and he's still willing to pass on the baton to the next generation. So yeah,
and speaking of the next generation, we can get right into it. Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez has become the first Democrat to officially enter the race. A former ER nurse and public health official, Rodriguez launched her campaign just last week. Also, she went into criticizing some of the Trump policies, promising to build on Evers' legacy of reproductive rights, public education, and healthcare. So we already have one that has officially entered. And I was in this discussion just this weekend, and we were asking about, if so-and-so knows that they're going to run, well, why don't they just go ahead and declare? Well, it's because, we kind of discussed it a little bit today. You go into a whole new set of rules once you declare that your candidacy. There's, you kind of step into a different realm there. So I think a lot of them like to either hold off, or sometimes I think they like to see poll numbers too, do a little bit of insider data. So maybe you have a little bit of insight to some of those. Pause, and I need to think about it for a few weeks before I officially enter.
Yeah, it's a couple ways how I've seen folks, I don't know, play that card, right? We're like, oh, I think I might, or like I'm mulling it over, and out the gate. And she was just on Upfront as well, giving insight that she had a chance to talk to the governor, had the heads up that he was retiring.
Yep.
And she announced right away. So that's, I guess, that is one of the advantages. You're the lieutenant governor. You get a chance to step in for the governor if anything should happen, and your office is right below his. So it totally makes sense. It's probably expected that Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez is in the race and has her first commercial on the internet
already out. Yeah. I saw that. I saw it was out already, and I was like, man, that was fast.
That was quick.
that was quick. But hey, great that we see some folks and some interest in the race. I think that's great. One of the other ones that has expressed interest is Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. Has become the first Black leader and youngest in that office, has announced his plan to enter the governor's race in the coming weeks. Some other potential Democratic candidates weighing entry include Attorney General Josh Cowell, Secretary of State Sarah Godlewski, State Senator Kelda Roys, Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson, and former DNC Wisconsin Chair Ben Winkler. Did I miss anybody, Mr. Bowen, that may be in there that may be a potential?
Yeah, I think I saw reports that former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes is thinking of getting the race too. So that is a significant list of folks, and I think you'll likely see some folks outside of that list considering it right now. It's a battle for the primary to be the nominee. So you can have a number of different angles of how to come about this and to present yourself as the best choice for Wisconsin Dems right now. And I think out of that list, it sounds like County Executive David Crowley has made his decision that he is gearing up, and sounds like he's taking the thoughtful, intentional approach of building his apparatus and his team and his platform of what he's going to run on. I think a number of folks who have been waiting for this moment, if they would get that shot, have been putting the pieces together and talking things out. But it sounds like he's making sure that he's moving at a pace that he's comfortable with. So he didn't just jump out. He was a little bit different in having that conversation and internally with his supporters and his family, and is going to be really excited to see. We know how primaries work.
Yep.
You have to build support in a significant amount of time, right? You don't have all the time in the world,
right?
And depending, have you done spring races or like winter races or summer races?
No. Well, so when I ran, I was in Ohio, so I did. We have one in the spring and then we have one in the fall. So we do our primary in May, I believe, and then obviously in November.
Gotcha. So the state primary is a summer race, right? Local here, we are having primaries in pretty much the winter, and then the general in the spring. It makes you want to think twice if you really want to run during the summer.
Exactly.
Like if you got to get out here and it's like 90 degrees and you are sweating profusely with a suit on or in front of cameras, how long do you want to do this? Are you really committed to going neighborhood to neighborhood, city to city, county to county? And some folks are going to try to hit all 72 counties before the primary. That's real work. It's constant on the phone. It's a constant grind. And I'm sure that you can attest to, like, every day you're tired. Every day you're worn out. Yeah. So that's the decision, right?
Right. Yeah. And the phone calls, the logistics, trying to get your supports out there. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot that goes into it, and it does take a toll on you. You talked about the summers. I think about the winters too.
Those are tough campaigns too.
Those can be really tough campaigns up in Wisconsin and even in Ohio. I remember we had a state representative that had made a determination to knock on every single door in his district before the election.
Huh.
I'm not sure if he ever made it or not, but I remember seeing pictures of him, dressed in all the snow gear, and he's out there, and it's a blizzard, and it's minus 20 degrees,
I
and
got
he's
you.
knocking on doors, and people
Yeah.
are looking at him probably like he's crazy, but
Sometimes you can get sympathy votes that way.
you can, yeah.
People see how cold you are and be like, you know what? You look committed.
Well,
You're reason enough.
they
I'll rock with you.
they probably say, well, if this guy's willing to go through this much to get a vote, then I'm willing to vote for
I'm
him.
willing to vote for him. He likely will call me back. He likely will be on top of what he needs to do.
Right. Yeah.
So
you say,
that's a good
hey,
point.
remember when you were on my porch and it was 20 below and we
Oh,
stood out there
man.
and had a conversation?
Those are tough times.
Those are tough. Looking on the other side of the aisle,
Yeah.
Republican primaries, there's two official folks that have entered so far. Josh Showman, the executive of Washington County, officially entered the GOP primary back in May. He was the first to file, and he represents a very deep red county and brings military and local government experience. Mm-hmm. Bill Barron, manufacturing executive and former Navy SEAL, announced his campaign on July 9th. He has already spent roughly $400,000 on ads positioning himself as a Trump-aligned outsider with a Wisconsin first platform. Also, some other ones: Tom Tiffany, U.S. Representative, and Senate President Mary Folinsky, along with others such as Eric Hovde. We remember that name from the past election this year, and Tim Michels are publicly considering entering the race. Scott Walker, former governor, has declined to run, ending speculation of him making another bid at
you saw
governor.
what he posted, right? Because he posted a picture of the 45, 47 hat.
Yeah, and if
the Trump hat,
and if he would have won, he would have been the 45th and 47th governor of Wisconsin.
So that was a nice
yeah.
Maybe make it look like I might run, but
and I think he probably knew all along, I'm not running. I'm just gonna mess with him a little bit.
He's the president of a really big organization in DC that works on the Republican side or the conservative side. So I doubted that he was going to really get in the race. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah,
but he did come out and make it clear that he's not interested. Not now.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that makes Wisconsin so unique and interesting is there's no term limits on the governor.
That's true.
You can run as many times as you want, where most states there are a term limit, usually two terms that you can run, so about 8 years, and then it's time for a new one. So Wisconsin's unique in that way. And it was unique that Evers, was considering a third term because, usually after 2 terms of governor, unless you've done a really, really bang up job, it's hard. I would think it would be hard to win that third term, and convince voters, hey, I'm going to be out here for another 4 years. You like me? You still like me?
I mean, Scott Walker learned the hard way, actually. He ran for a third term and lost.
Right.
And ultimately, a lot of folks thought former Governor Walker was Teflon. They thought he could not be broken, that he really couldn't be touched like that. So he found out the hard way, and a guy named Tony Evers took him out.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk. Well, you guys are going to have a lot to talk about.
You'll be in North Carolina.
But hey, if you ever want to,
if
you ever want to have a conversation, go ahead and give me a call up. I'd be happy to be a guest. But there's a lot going on and a lot going to be to talk about.
Now, the funny thing is, you're going to a state with another big race.
Yeah,
the U.S. Senate race.
Right.
So we might have to contact him and be like,
another
hey, what's going on down there?
technical swing state.
There you go.
There you go. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Welcome back. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Awesome. Happy to be back again. We're going to talk about economic development today, David.
Nice. Let's do it.
Going to talk about a little bit, this is something that we saw in Ohio as well, just a little bit of a brief economic history, definitely the brewing history here in the city, but manufacturing as well, which was really a big piece of the city's economic foundation, especially back in the 70s and 80s, 60s. Yeah. We saw the same thing in Ohio. But there's also been a lot of transition since then. We've seen a lot of that manufacturing either going overseas or out of business or moved away. And it has an impact on us. It has an impact on all of us because it does affect us in one way, shape, or form. You can track local dollars. I think, with one study showed if you tracked a local dollar, it touched 100 different hands before it left the community again. When manufacturing and things like that start to go out of the city, it definitely affects everybody on all different levels. Yeah. And one of the biggest transitions has been in the workforce development area. I think we've went from this brewing city to a manufacturing city to now we got to figure out what we're doing, what our identity is, and figure out this new technology and new manufacturing and new ways of doing things. So still here today, there's still some major players here today, though it's declined from its peak. The focus has shifted to advanced manufacturing, automation, and precision engineering. And we see this all across the country. I see it in small towns. I see it in large cities where they're bringing in these automated factories. They're bringing in the data centers. They're bringing in the things that require a lot of skill to go in and work and operate. But at the same time, these are high-paying jobs. So it's what we've been asking for, right? We've been asking for these high-paying, high-skilled jobs. The question is, are we providing the educational aspect, the development aspect of that as well also? So we're going to try to take a look at some of the things that the city and the county is doing here in Milwaukee to try to boost that, to try to boost that up, try to get our workforce up to speed so that when these jobs do come in, or when a manufacturer does look at Milwaukee or Milwaukee County, that they're like, hey, we have a workforce ready to go. They're trained. We have the skill set that we're looking for. We're ready to invest in that community.
And there's a unique perspective here. We are blocks away from the 30th Street corridor. It used to house tens of thousands of jobs. Many of the industries that are having the biggest foothold in impact and economic impact, they use a lot less people than they did back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, you're seeing a shift among the industries and how much people they actually use. And then you're also seeing, that also hollowed out a lot of the financial gain that was there for the heart of the city as well. When I did doors on my first race, I was running for county supervisor, and I met a lot of folks in neighborhoods around the 30th Street corridor and in Rufus King, where folks were retirees of those companies. So the Alice Chalmers and the companies that were in the 30th Street corridor, and you would pass Capitol Drive all the time. You'd see these car frames in the parking lot, and over time you would see less and less car frames in that lot, and then all of a sudden there weren't any. It was empty, right? So we've seen what happens to communities when the source of economic empowerment is gone.
Right.
And those retirees who retired well, like those were companies who paid their workers really well. You retired, I think you got a Rolex watch.
Ooh.
You got a chance to put your children, and it was probably enough to put your grandchildren through college, buy a boat, kick your feet up. We're seeing a lot of jobs today where if the main industry now outside of the advanced manufacturing roles that we see, a lot of them are in service. A lot of them are office-based jobs, and it's not the same. We're not seeing workers, especially that live in the neighborhoods where our partners are doing work. People, by a majority, getting access to companies where they are poured in as much as their elders were when they worked at the companies there.
Right. You know, I think of my dad. He actually retired from a blue collar job. He was a blue collar worker all of his life. Retired from Ford Motor Company. And I think of, you know, he went from up here on the mountaintop kind of down to now, with inflation and with all the number of things, with the squeeze on the folks with the fixed incomes. What he had back then isn't making it now. So it's, you know, it what used to be enough to buy the boat, to buy the house, to send your grandkids through school.
Buying a house wasn't the question.
It doesn't go quite as far anymore. Compared, you know, I think he retired in '99, so he's been retired for quite a few years. And I think he's, you know, when these companies factor in your pension, they don't factor you to live to 100 years old. They kind of figure out you're gonna live the average of 72 or 73.
People do live longer.
So you know, it's unique on how the landscape has changed, especially in manufacturing. And I say that because we're kind of right here in the Rust Belt, you know, Milwaukee, even into Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, a lot of that where we're still seeing that transition yet from the 70s and the 80s of the manufacturing going out to, and I see this in small towns across not only Ohio, but Wisconsin as well, where they're trying to find an identity. Who are we now? Well, you know, there was this one small town back in Ohio that had one major factory, Fruhoff. It was called Fruhoff. They built transmission and axles for semi trucks. When that went out, that was half of the people in that town that they worked there, and the other half of the people relied on the folks that worked there for their business as well. So they had to go through a whole new identity process of who we are. What do we want to see our city become? So they had to, you know, reinvent themselves, which it can be scary, but it can also offer a clean slate to start over and be like, you know, well, who are we? Who are we now?
Absolutely scary, and can be a shell shock if you're not ready for that transition, right? So we know families that have not been able to get access to those jobs, and we're about to experience in other ways, right? When AI is instituting a big shift in how work is done again, you know, how many folks are prepared or trained to get access to the newest technology so that they can be a part of what the new economy, what the new industry will look like. And a lot of times these changes come abruptly, and the layoffs come abruptly. The changes of, we don't need 100 people to do this segment of the work. We just need 20. We just need 10. You know, you're seeing those things happen, and it's one of the things that I'm glad that we get a chance to work with partners that advocate for citizens and advocate for families to be able to still have access to that piece of the Milwaukee, the Wisconsin dream, to be able to provide for their families some way, somehow. And you know, getting into this conversation, you know, just reminds me of just how much we have to double down in our efforts and engage folks around elections and around voting. That, you know, your elected officials, your local, state, and federal government all affect this transition, all affect these decisions, where dollars go. And I try to get people to, if I can try to translate how economic development works, it's a reason why Miller Park was Miller Park, because brewing beer was the forte where a lot of money came from. So the sponsorships were coming from the really big brewing companies. But now, what is Miller Park called? It's American Family Field, right? It's now insurances have and the financial industry have taken over, right? So they've been able to make a big impact, and technically they're making way more money than what the brewers were able to make at that point. And you can start to see this transition. where it's even like the common things that you would just know and you just wouldn't think about like that. You can see this transition already happening before you.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And one of those, we keep talking about technology and technology upgrades and then needing to learn how to operate this technology. Healthcare is another one that's a big
Huge one.
employer in the region. Freighter, Aurora, Children's Wisconsin. There's been a big boom in the healthcare industry as well. It seems like they're always hiring nurses, doctors, technicians, just different things.
I want to say Ascension might be the biggest employer.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right.
And you go into a lot of communities and you find out that the health systems there are usually the biggest employers in that area. It's just, it's healthcare is a huge thing. And it's something that, also when you have large healthcare systems like that, you need the workforce development. You need the continued training to be able to stay on top of the cutting edge research, the cutting edge, procedures that you do. If you're a nurse or you're a doctor, that you have to be able to go to do some of this continuing education. And having that access is so important, which is where universities become important, like MSOE or trying to think of Marquette. Just a bunch of them. And then you mentioned financial. And then you mentioned financial services. I know this because I can look out my window and see it every day. I think it's a BMO. No, it's the Baird Center, the Baird building. We have BMO Harris. You have Northwest Mutual, which has their headquarters downtown. Associated Bank. It's starting to become a regional hub for finance, with insurance, with investments and investments. So. Maybe that's a kind of a way that Milwaukee is starting to reshape their landscape and their focus is to start to focus on those financial sectors a little bit more. So, also technology and innovation in emerging sectors supported by groups like MKE Tech Hub Coalition and Generator. There's also growth in cybersecurity, software development, and data analytics. So again, some of these high tech things that we're seeing growth in the city and through the county.
Don't forget Milky Way Tech Hub.
Okay.
And some of the amazing people there, Nadia Johnson and so many others that are they're getting especially Black folks engaged in tech and in creating startups and founding companies around what this new wave of using technology and how that can help impact folks. So,
right. Yeah. So we're gonna jump around a little bit, but getting into some of the city level initiatives in the city of Milwaukee. They have a tax increment financing, which is the TIF districts. The city uses TIFs to spur private investment in underdeveloped or blighted areas. This is something I dealt with as a city council member a lot. And this is one of those things that they don't tell you about when you get in, but you find out when you get there, is blighted properties and abandoned properties, especially when it comes to commercial and industrial properties. Sometimes getting a hold of the owners of those properties, you have no idea where they are. You don't. I think we had 2 or 3 commercial buildings in our downtown that we could not track down the owner of the building, and the buildings were filling up with water and the windows were busted out, and we just wanted to do something with our buildings. So we either wanted them tore down or fixed up or something, because
was it owned by like a LLC or
it was owned by a gentleman that had passed away and handed it down to his children that did not live in the state. So really tracking them down and getting any communication was really difficult, but it's awesome to see something with those blighted properties. I know that when I was a city councilman, I wanted to make sure that we weren't putting people out because of an issue or a problem. So like, if you lived there and you had some broken windows or you had a messed up roof or your siding, was coming down, or maybe you just had some junk piled up, we didn't want to come in there and start issuing fines right off the bat. We wanted to work with you to make sure that we could get those things cleaned up. And if there were some resources we could provide to assist you, we would definitely do that. And then given time extensions and just checking up, like, hey, we'll be back in another month. as long as we see some progress, we're willing to work with you. We're not going to issue those fines. We're not going to require you to show up to court. But I think that, I like to see when municipalities deal with those situations on an individual basis instead of just blanketly, saying, well, nope, you're out of code, you're out of ordinance. Here's your fine.
Yeah. And help folks understand how TIFs work, right? So a TIF district is created by local government, let's just say like the city, or, we've seen TIF districts created around to revitalize malls. So like Glendale's done that around Bayshore. The city of Milwaukee has done that around a number of different instances, in particular for downtown or for different developments on the different parts of the city. Help folks understand. So the district is being created, and how is it taking money and investing it into blighted properties?
So yeah, they take that. So a lot of it is obviously private investment.
Yep.
So some of it is private investment, and we did something similar to this, I want to say, back in Ohio, where we had a lot of private investment, and then we decided, okay, what does our community need the most? And then we also worked with the land bank to go in and say, okay, the land bank would say, hey, we have this land that we vacated, it has utilities. Okay, well, what does the community want? What does the community need? Oh, well, we're missing a grocery store down here that just got taken out.
This would be some of our partners working on expanding grocery stores.
Right. So it's like, hey, we have this private money and this private investment that we're willing to invest to get what the community needs.
Yeah.
And it gives a little bit more flexibility in those investments, as where, a lot of time, and I've said this a million times, the city isn't in the business of XYZ. I think we were talking about at one time when I was on council, we were talking about a housing development or something like that. And I said, the city of Delphos is not we're not real estate agents, and we're not building investors. But we'll be happy to zone it and give you the utilities and do whatever you need to do. But we're not in the business of owning things and then leasing them out and doing this. That's for other folks to do. But this gives a little bit more flexibility, I think, in the ability to say, hey, the community needs a grocery store. We need a pharmacy. Our nearest pharmacy is 2 miles away. This gives them some options to be able to use some of those private donations to invest back into the community.
Gotcha. So it's partnering with the private market and private investors, and then also what they would gain in the tax increase from the value of that land. They're taking a portion of that and saying, okay, from the public end, we'll invest this amount to redo some things to help this private development. And then, it raises the value of everything.
Right. And I think some of the places we've seen that, most notably the Deer District.
Deer District
would
That's
definitely
a good
would be a good example. But we're going to take our last quick break. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. This is Be Voice with Wisconsin Voices on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM, and we're talking economic development with the executive director of Wisconsin Voices, David Bowen. We were just having some good conversation during the break, just talking about different things. I know you said you failed to mention Midtown and some of
That
the
was a
good
really good
investments.
TIF example that I
Yeah.
think a lot of folks would recognize. So yeah. There was a decision by the city to make a TIF district, and just to remind people, targeted investment project district, targeted investment financial district. So to revitalize and invest into that area, but it was actually one of the districts that kind of struggled. And had to didn't produce the numbers that the city was expecting, and they had to use the some of the other TIF districts that were performing well to supplement that district. So now we have some new developments. Some of our partners are trying to advocate for groceries to still stay in the locations that they are in, to prevent food deserts from happening throughout the city. I believe that location, that Pick and Save in Midtown, is one of the groceries that are threatened to be closed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I know I saw the county executive David Crowley out. It was on the news. There was a food handout over the weekend. I think you said they gave out 270 bags of groceries. The supermarket was celebrating an anniversary, but there was some good interviews on that piece, talking about the need for fresh produce in those neighborhoods, because so many times the things that we find in those neighborhoods are processed, fatty, sugary foods that we're pushing out to folks, instead of having those fresh vegetables, the fresh produce, the things that are the healthy choices and the healthy options.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Should we look at it as like, okay, it's the private market, somebody else will come and replace them if they don't want to earn dollars from the community that has supported them for quite some time? Or should we be, in a sense, empathetic about the lack of performance that store has been able to do because of the lack of people that are either living in those areas, or because we compare that to certain areas, and you'll see sometimes 2 grocery stores next to each other, or you'll see more grocery stores focused in certain areas because there are either more people spending, whatever it is. How should we potentially look at it?
Yeah, business is business. When somebody, whether it be a corporation or their own personal investment, and you're putting your money into something that you expect to get a return on.
Sure.
When you do that, and month after month or year after year, you're not seeing that return, some decisions have to be made. Do you continue to lose money, or do you pull the reins in and close it up and cut your losses? So there is a private and a private aspect to this, and I think we've had a whole show on it about talking about the difference between somebody like Joe Dray coming down here and putting up a shop that employs 5 people right here on Capitol Drive, or a major corporation coming in. The first thing you're going to need, I think, and here's where public comes in, is providing those utilities, is providing nice curbs, providing nice walkways, because I said municipalities do 2 things. They provide safety and they provide service. So is a grocery store service? Yes. We need grocery stores. We need pharmacies. We need things that are within walking distance or reasonable distance to the folks that we serve. So I think it's two-sided. One, the city and the county need to make investments, and I can look right out the window right now and I can tell you, I can see curbs that need fixed. I can see drain basins that need probably unclogged and replaced.
Right. We're looking sidewalks. At
we're looking at
Capitol.
Yeah. And I'm saying, sidewalks that need redone. If I were a private investor, I would feel a lot better about coming down and putting my investment into a neighborhood that the city themselves want to put some money into. Why would I believe in it as a private investor if the city and the county aren't believing in it. If they're not sticking the money into the utilities, to the roads, to the sidewalks, the things that are going to draw those people into my business. Because I can go out here and I could build a brand new business right here on the corner. But if the sidewalks are still tore up and the curbs are still bad and there's no place to park and folks are worried about their safety, am I going to get my return back? Is that a good investment on my am I being a smart businessman? Probably not. So there's got to be some level of investment on the city's end as well. Not just saying, I love these incubator plans and these incubator programs. I think they're wonderful and they really do work. But what's really going to work is when we put the actual money on the ground and we start doing the investments. I don't know how many times I travel down Capitol Drive and I have to shift lanes because a water line's broke or because a sewer line's broke or because they got to dig up the road because something down under. I couldn't imagine what some of the infrastructure looks like on this end of town. I'm sure it's millions, if not billions of dollars that needs to be poured into it. But we got to start somewhere. And I've always said the easiest way to start is by making it look decent. Utilities, making sure our utilities are ran, that our water lines aren't going to bust as soon as we hook them up, that our sewer lines aren't going to break, that our roads are nice, that we have parking, that we feel safe where we're at. So these things all come together to form one piece. We need the private sector investment, but we also need the public sector. And there's a responsibility, I think, on our city and our county leaders to do that.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that perspective. It makes me just highlight that it makes me feel away, right? If I see how this community is still fairly segregated and we're seeing access to food, access to, let's say, high quality grocers. And we're seeing that diminish and reduce over time. But I still see those same grocers have the chance to compete right next to other grocers in the suburbs, but they can't do that in the city. It makes me feel like, well, why can't you provide that? Why can't you compete for those same dollars in other neighborhoods that our partners are doing work in? And then, I also have to be real about the dynamic of just like people. Like I think about cities like Detroit and cities like Milwaukee and Chicago that are, in a sense, losing bodies to other states. So losing people, losing population, or not even growing to the same level as other areas. That's a threat to the progress of your community, to the quality of life of your community as well, to the amount of people that are paying into the system to take care of all those infrastructure and government needs, right? More people equal more dollars. And it becomes a really tough, is it the chicken or is it the egg debate? But I think it's one of the things that I'm at least committed to is seeing how much our partners and many organizations throughout the community, throughout the city, the region, and the state that are taking these issues head on, and they're having these conversations. They're having tough conversations,
right?
And they're pushing the envelope, and then that's at least what we can demand at this point, and hope that ends up turning the page.
Yeah, and again, vote, folks.
Right. This is a point of why
you
should vote.
It's the whole point of, this is the whole point of all this and breaking down economic development is to get your voice out there and get it heard. You don't like the potholes, you don't like the underdevelopment in your area, you don't like the blighted properties, reach out to your alderman or go vote. Or do both. Now is a great time to get out there and register. We always say this is a downtime, between elections. It's a great time to get out there and check your registration.
And if you're engaged in the off year time or off year from elections, you're more likely to actually vote in elections. So
and you'll be prepared.
Now's the time. You're right.
You'll be prepared when all those ads start popping up here in the next few months, and you'll be like, "Hey, no, I know better than that. I know you're not telling me the truth because I'm informed and I listen to Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices every Monday and Tuesday."
There you go.
All right, we thank you guys so much for
That was a
listening.
good show.
Yeah, great
Thanks,
show.
Joe.
Yeah, thanks, David. It was awesome doing the show with you. So we're going to wrap it up, and we will be back tomorrow. We got some guests coming.
Yeah,
possibly.
we're going to see if we can have some more conversations on violence prevention and
Perfect.
continue to. We were just talking about that today and looking at some of the videos online and trying to find hope and not be depressed on what we're seeing. But it's tough of some of the things that we're seeing. So we'll see if we can continue that conversation.
All right, Joe Dray, David Bowen from Wisconsin Voices. This is WNOV 860 AM 106.